Okay, this is the Lovecraft eZine talk show. We do this every Sunday at 6 o'clock Eastern Time. Today is August the 30th, 2015, and our guest today is author Brian Hodge. Brian's written a lot of stuff. A Lovecraftian novella. Oh, I didn't bring my bear. I should have brought my bear. Whom the Gods Would Destroy, which is a novella I really enjoyed. And then recently I've read, thanks for sending them to me, several other short stories that he wrote. We were just talking about, before we went live, we were talking about In the Negative Spaces, Rick, I think you were. So
yeah, it was. When I first read it, I thought this was sort of his version of Call of Cthulhu, but the more I got into it, it was getting closer to the Whisper in the darkness. And it's maybe it's unclassifiable what happens in that story.
Oh, good. Yeah.
Well, Shadow Out of Time went through my mind, but you don't have to, I don't you don't have to necessarily compare it to any Lovecraft story. It's cosmic horror, I suppose.
It's about living in an apartment where strange things happen, or living in an apartment building.
Yeah.
What's the title, Rick?
In the negative spaces.
Yeah, which book is that in, Brian?
It's a novella collection from that just came out earlier this month called Dark City. I shared it with Gerard Harner, and he's got two shorter pieces. We split the book roughly in half, and mine was one big chunk, and then he split his into two smaller pieces.
Yeah. Before I forget, we're going to give away a couple of things today. We usually do giveaways to live viewers. I'm going to give away. I'm paying for this. I'm not getting it from Brian, but it looked very interesting, and I haven't read it yet. It looks like you've written a Hellboy novel.
Yeah, quite several years ago.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I just noticed that today for whatever reason. I guess it was a little focused on the cosmic horror stuff, but. I'm going to give away a copy of that to a random live viewer, and then that Cthulhu action figure, I guess, is the best word that I posted on Facebook a little bit ago to a random live viewer too. So, Matt, did you say you had something today or not?
Things. This is called The Friendly Horror. It is a small collection by Jessica Burke and Anthony Burge. Paperback, very nice.
Okay.
And then a picture book called The Antarctic Express. It's part of Ken Hite's Mini Mythos series. I was fortunate enough to meet the artist, Christina Rodriguez, while I was in Necronomicon. So she did the art. It's full of lovely pictures of Antarctic wastelands told in the style of the Arctic Express.
Okay.
So those two items.
Thanks. Well, let me read Brian's Amazon bio. Brian Hodge, called a writer of spectacularly unflinching gifts by no less than Peter Straub, is the award-winning author of 10 novels of horror and crime noir. He's also written over 100 short stories, novelettes, and novellas, and 4-length collections. His most recent collection, 2011's Picking the Bones, probably not your most recent now, but became the first of his books to be honored with Publishers Weekly Starred Review. So you don't just write Lovecraftian fiction, obviously, but you're obviously interested in it, in cosmic horror.
Where my head's been quite a bit when I'm at least wearing the horror hat lately.
Yeah.
Probably ever since I did Whom the Gods Would Destroy. That's kind of the mood I'm in.
Well, I guess what started you along that path, in that mood, recently, last few years?
I'm probably doing that. You know, I had done one other one, specifically Lovecraftian piece that was for, I think it was called Was it called Children of Cthulhu that John Palin edited several years ago?
Yeah, that sounds
Children of Cthulhu, yeah.
That's an oldie.
Yeah, it's probably at least 10 years old. I did something in there called the Firebrand Symphony, and I don't know. I just got more interested in doing things more along those lines as the opportunities came up.
Yeah. What what started you in Lovecraft in the first place? What got you interested in cosmic horror? Um,
Well, I discovered Lovecraft when I was in college, probably. So I've always appreciated his work. It's not anything that I ever thought I could specifically emulate. So it was just a matter of eventually starting to take some of the themes and some of the atmospherics, and then just whenever I play in somebody, what I call playing in somebody else's yard. Whenever I do that, I always look for that area, that oval-shaped, that football-shaped oval in the Venn diagram where our interests would overlap, and then just try to.
Do you remember what collection was the first Lovecraft collection you read?
I think it was one of those Del Rey things it was called The Tomb and Other Stories.
Yeah, okay. I'm always curious of what starts a person. You know, Valentine books was my introduction to Lovecraft.
Yeah, mine too. Yeah.
Well, aren't those the same thing? The Valentine or Del Rey, aren't they the same thing?
Well, it was me. It was Request of Unknown Kadath, and then later they started to publish a ton of books.
Right.
Yeah, there was that Michael Whalen art, wasn't it? That was chopped up.
Well, originally, why I even picked the books up, let alone buy them, is there were 5 that had John Holmes covers, like the red face that split up the middle with the metal band and the padlock and our red bats coming out of the top of it.
I saw that.
There's one that looks like a cloud sky that looks like bricks. I mean, these things in 69 or 70, like, what is this? Wow. But that's where I started.
They came out.
Go ahead, Rick.
I was just saying those covers came out about after 1972 because the original covers were very different to those collections. They were like photographs.
That's true too. Yeah.
wow, I wish I had the memory you guys have.
Well,
Like-
my memory sucks compared to Rick's.
Well, these were the old days when paperbacks were inexpensive, and you would always walk into the bookstore and look at the paperback covers, and you would see, oh, another Lovecraft. Oh, I already have that. They just put a new cover on it.
Yeah.
Well, with the horror stories I've read of yours, Brian, I sense, I don't know if you want to call it a theme, but I guess there's no better word for it, kind of a common theme that in some of them, that if there is a god or gods out there, then they're not very friendly. They probably don't like us very much, to say the least. In whom the gods would destroy. What's that one I read of yours just today? Yeah, one possible shape of things to come. Yeah. Really interesting story, by the way. I really enjoyed it.
Well, he had a lovely line in the negative spaces. If horses had gods, they would look like horses.
That's not mine. No, that's one of the Roman philosophers. I think it was that's kind of how it's it come down. The quote has come down, but it was more of a full paragraph to that extent. The anthropomorphizing of gods, and that's just kind of how the quote has come boiled down through 2,000 years, I guess.
Huh.
Yeah, I wish I could lay claim to that, but I can't.
Well, then you raised another question. If I don't remember the exact word you used. It wasn't slugs, but if slugs had gods, what would slugs look like? I mean, what if slugs had gods? What would gods look like?
Started the process with cephalopods. I think that was the
that was the word. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, in the negative spaces, I wasn't sure where you were going to go with that, and really satisfying story. Sorry, what?
Neither was I.
Always a good sign.
I think it was. I mean, that was already done and in the can. But when I read this, it was Laird Barron on Facebook. I think it was quoting somebody that it might have been an instructor or a mentor or somebody that given him some advice, and it was, when when you're not sure where you're going, just continue to make it weirder. You know? You keep pushing to make it weirder, and that's what I did by instinct with that one. I was just more wasn't happy with it. I thought I could ratchet up the oddness to a little bit more.
Well, he's, first of all, he's a bad influence. So there it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's pure evil.
Yeah.
Well, here's a quote from In the Negative Spaces. Maybe we Homo sapiens can afford to be cocky now, but there's no reason to be so primate-centric about the whole civilization concept. And then you go on to lay out 4 major traits to get a species moving in that direction. They're up for grabs. We don't own them. From that lady's journal in the Negative Spaces.
Yeah, it was fun writing from her perspective.
Yeah, when I first started reading that story, I thought it was a journal of the protagonist, and then I realized a few pages in it was another lady's journal.
Well,
so.
You're supposed to have that head fake going on there. Yeah.
Good. I'm glad it wasn't just me.
And what's nice, it doesn't use any mythos names, so when somebody dreams of a city, you keep wondering, what is this city? At one point I thought it was Rayeg, another point I thought it was where the Yithians lived, another time I thought it was where the Gothians lived. Could be any place.
No, there's no direct contact with any of the extant stuff.
Yeah. All I remember is, all we know really is that it has ramps.
Yeah. They don't need stairs. No.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't want to give away too much about that story, but I really enjoyed it. In One Possible Shape of Things to Come, the creature being whatever it is that comes out of the corners to nab the kids. We've talked before on this show about what would a being in a higher dimension look like to us in 3 dimensions, and I was reminded of that when I read that story. So I don't know if that's what you're going for, but that's what I was reminded of. It seemed
Not
like
necessarily the look, just the concept and the
the concept, yeah.
Straight lines extending of our geometry extending into other spaces and being bathroom. My initial idea for that story just came out of one of those things I find irresistible when I see links on them. Is like the 20 creepiest things kids ever said. And it was a situation like that a babysitter, I think, was describing that her charge. She checked in on him maybe about an hour after the bedtime, and he was standing in the corner, and she asked him why, and he just turned around and, "Shh, it is the punishment."
Jeez.
So that sat in my head for several weeks or a few months, and then I just wanted to do something with that, and I looked at something like that and tried to find the extinction event in it.
I got a question from the audience. Brian, World of Hurt had what appeared to have some heavy Gnostic elements. If this was intentional, what parts of Gnosticism do you see lending themselves well to modern horror?
Well, it wasn't really supposed to have been. It was certainly inspired by Gnostic elements, but it wasn't necessarily supposed to draw directly from them. The idea of, I think the Latin phrase is Deus absconditus, the God who went away, and then what would fill the power vacuum, and the whole idea that the Creator God took off and was a very remote figure that really didn't take any kind of active interest in everyday life for people. That what people, the figure in the Old Testament that people pray to was such a wrathful deity. The idea that it wasn't anything benevolent, it just maybe it would take on a benevolent guise every now and then, but was actually inimical to people, to human life. That was actually the evil force there. So Yeah, I mean those are the ideas that I took and just kind of adapted and
Yeah,
used, tried to make them my own.
you use the analogy of a guy who's built up a factory, owns a factory, builds it up, from the ground up, and then one day he just disappears or goes away, and then
Yeah.
one of the managers takes over, and he's not nearly as nice of a guy, but
Yeah.
he's running the place.
Was that from Dripping to Sundered Wines? Was that from
That was
there?
You know what? I don't remember where that was from. I think that was from World of Hurt.
Oh, okay. At this point, it's 4 interrelated stories, so I don't always know where something came from. I look for different ways to say the same thing, basically, from time to time.
Yeah, and I guess that goes to my earlier question. Is that the kind of philosophy you're trying to get out there in some of your writing, at least in your horror writing? That there's nobody looking out for us, kind of a cosmic horror.
It's fun to play with.
Yeah.
It's just probably what.
I mean, I find it more terrifying than the fact that no, there's nobody out there. Deities, I mean.
Well, it leaves plenty of room. That's where you. There's so many of classic horror stories that, or at least maybe from the 70s to 80s era, a lot of them ended with what might be called a Deus Ex Machina, where even as good as the Stephen King hand, that it was essentially the hand of God that triggered that nuclear explosion. So, when you remove that element or that escape element out of it, I think it leaves us on our own to deal with things that that the prayers aren't going to be answered, and this isn't. Then nobody's coming in. The Marines aren't coming in. The cavalry isn't coming in at the 11th hour to save us.
Yeah, everything is not going to be all right.
Yep, ain't no John Wayne.
What do you write horror that I've not read all your stuff yet. I've read quite a bit of it, but I think it's mostly in the cosmic horror bent.
Yeah, I need to update the Amazon bio. It's up to about 120 short pieces now, plus the books.
Okay. Well, for those who haven't read you at all, where would you recommend they start? Can you talk a little bit about the different stuff that you write?
At least with the short fiction, I've tended to go through. I don't know. It's like I get in moods and try to. Because like with the very first collection, the Convulsion Factory, a lot of that was themed around. Had some sort of connection with urban decay and societal decay. The next one, Falling Idols, that was more themed around religion and sort of outre spirituality. By the time I got to the third one, Lies and Ugliness, that one almost had subdivisions. Like here were the British pagan stories, here were the childhood stories. So I just tend to get into well, I don't want to call them ruts, but mine certain paths. And just it turns out that for a few years that the more the cosmic horror side of things is really, it's got the broadest canvas probably to play with.
Yeah.
With the one you were talking about, somebody mentioned there, the Lone and Level Sands Stretch Far Away. That one has a very strong urban decay element as well. So pretty much anything that brought in the past, I can inject in the future work.
What was that you just said? You cut out for me a little bit, about the last 15, 20 seconds.
Okay, I did. Okay, I was saying that behind the cosmic core probably has the broadest. Anything that I did in the past, any kind of thematic explorations that I did in the past, there's room for it and more under.
What? When did you start writing, and what started you writing?
I started writing even before I knew the alphabet. I was as a kid. I used to have this burning need to scribble on scraps of wood when I was 4 or 5 years old and make what to me were signs and put them up on trees. So I thought I was trying to communicate, but I was writing until second grade.
When did you start writing professionally?
Right out of college. I had gone to a writers' conference in Boston shortly after I went shortly after I got out of college, and went to Boston for a week for this. By the end of the week, that was when I met with my workshop leader. He gave me a list of literary agents to start with. I had asked him to go, that you're ready to do this professionally. I had just done some. At that point, I guess I'd gotten my my 2,000 hours in early or whatever it is.
Yeah, you think that's accurate? The 10,000 hours thing?
Not with everything. I think you can reach a high degree of proficiency, but with something like writing, I think you're not writing publishable stuff right off the bat.
Yeah.
I think that takes a lot of reading, a lot of writing, a lot of rewriting, a lot of feedback. So that might be closer to the truth, something like that.
Do I remember correctly talking to you before that you're into astronomy? You have an interest in astronomy?
You might have asked that in connection with Whom the Gods Would Destroy.
Yeah, maybe so.
So, yeah, I like to read articles. I don't have a telescope or anything like that, but but when these new discoveries come up, I like to read about them. Just find out a little bit more about what they found that's out there.
Yeah. Yeah, I've noticed it references in several of your stories makes me think that. So yeah, at least an interest. Yeah.
Yeah.
Rick, do you have any questions for?
I also read Curses for a Second.
Cures for a Second World.
Cures for a Second World. I'm sorry. Which seemed to be your response to critics in a strange way.
I knew that was going to be the some people's reaction to it, because what else would it be? Now what it was, the idea behind that from Boy, it sounds like something's just getting hammered.
I was typing.
No, it's just typing.
Yeah, it was just me typing.
Oh, okay.
Sorry, you were saying?
Yeah, I was on Facebook one afternoon and I saw a link from author Stephen Seville, who lives in, I think, Switzerland. British guy who lives in Switzerland. And he wrote this, or he linked to this review and said something like, no matter how bad of a review I ever get, it's never going to be this bad. Well, I had to look at it. There was a guy reviewing a new Coldplay album. I guess a web magazine. And apparently this guy's MO. He's moving up around guy. He's been doing this a long time, and I think he's just decided a long time ago that he hates everything and everyone, and saying that he's going to be as insulting as possible, even if he has to bring your family into it. Now, so it was this really scathing review, but now at the time, it was just one of those happy accidents of coincidence. I wouldn't have given anything. I would have forgotten about it by the next day. But at the time, I happened to be reading. I happened to be reading this book. It's a encyclopedic book about black metal. I love black metal. The Black Metal Evolution of the Cult by Dale Patterson. Highly recommended black metal. So just because I was in the middle of that, I thought, well, how would one of these Norwegian crazy guys from the early years in the Norwegian black metal, how would they respond to this? So, because there was so much hyperbole in the that Coldplay review about what this guy would rather do than listen to another Coldplay song like that, I just thought about what if somebody held him to his words, you know.
That story really wasn't Lovecraftian, even though one of the heavy metal band players had a Lovecraftian nickname. Who were you? Well, there was a character called Gast, if I remember.
Gast, yeah. That was the,
Were you thinking more of Robert Bloch or some other horror writer, or is that just your own unique style?
That was a lot of black metal musicians have stage names like that. And a lot of them have drawn from Tolkien or Lovecraft or just kind of, they just have these evil sounding stage personas. I wasn't aware of that one yet that anybody had used, and it just seemed like something that would fit. It didn't particularly point to anybody in particular.
Now, had you always been into black metal, or had you been attracted by black metal because of all the mayhem, pun intended, and bullshit in the community in Scandinavia?
Well, that's what brought it to my attention. That's what
mine as well.
Why I first heard about it, and so yeah, probably since the early to mid '90s, it was when I got aware of it and found it very interesting. Yeah, I liked the music a lot, and it was just. I always wanted to do something. For a long time, I wanted to do something with it in fiction. I wanted to incorporate it somehow, but because it seems like a natural, because it's got these darker spiritual elements to it. It's got these extreme characters.
Yeah, absolutely. I have about 150 pages of an abandoned black metal novel, which is two bands who, the leader in this band, leader in that band were in something else together, but somebody wants to spread out a little bit and do something a little different, let's say like Mortis, and the other guy wants, purity. So they go to war, and then you have the two bands, and they literally go to war.
Yeah.
Fascinating subject. Have you seen Until the Light Takes Us? Documentary?
Yeah, 2 or 3 times.
Yeah.
The thing that kept me from doing anything with it in fiction for so long was because it's got all these great aesthetics, but also it's cartoonish.
Absolutely. I know.
The idea of someone responding to a review like that was my escape hatch, really. That was what enabled me to deal with the cartoonish aspect of it and just front and center, and then go through it into something else. So, that was just a perfect storm of exposures there.
Now, I see equipment behind you. Are you a musician?
Yeah, I mess around a lot with music as well.
And how much does that inform your work, or doesn't it?
Well, with Whom the Gods Would Destroy, I did an original soundtrack, about a 38-minute soundtrack to that, with I think 9 or 10 tracks. So that's available for download on their website just for free. I just did that for fun.
Okay.
So things.
Brian Hodge.net. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I'm sorry. Go on.
I linked that to your webpage, Mike.
Okay.
When I was writing Whom the Gods Would Destroy, I was listening to a lot of space music, and that's not the kind of stuff that I usually listen to while I'm writing, at least. And so I ended up relating to the story, probably on a different level sonically than I usually do with most things, and it just made me want to do. I originally thought that I might do like an EP's worth of stuff, maybe 4 tracks, and then just started probably the summer before it came out, putting down some stuff, and then it just got out of hand and snowballed into 10 tracks and about a full-length album. So yeah, things cross-pollinate like that.
Okay. Yeah, a great deal. Most of my stuff ends with my version of author notes, which is just a soundtrack. You know, I was listening to this.
Playlist.
Which is strange because some of my weirdest stuff was written in, like, I don't know, Joe Beam, you know. So what do you you said that's not what you normally listen to. What do you normally listen to when you write?
If I'm doing the horror thing, almost invariably some sort of ambient music. A lot of dark ambient. I've got probably hundreds of dark ambient titles, and the one guy that hardly ever leaves my CD carousel is Steve Roach, and he's
Steve Roach, yeah. Well, he probably has hundreds all by himself.
Yeah, he's still
talk about proficient.
Yeah, repeat stuff. So.
Yeah. Okay, cool.
And some of his, I've liked him for a long time. Some of his stuff last few years sounds like he basically sat down at the keyboard and went stream of consciousness. Not that that's a bad thing, but you know.
It's getting kind of hard to tell it apart.
Yes.
I think I was thinking last night that I think he needs collaborators now to help.
Yeah. Are you aware of Lustmord and Robert Rich's Stalker?
Yeah, got that.
Yeah, I think that used to be one of my favorite things to write to. Cool.
Yeah,
now, do you listen to Dominic? Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, no, another one I've been listening to a lot lately, who has a lot of stuff out, is Alia DNA.
Oh, wonderful stuff. Yeah, and he goes back forever.
Yeah.
He's an amazing artist. Yeah, absolutely.
I was getting a lot of stuff from Project Records when his first one came out through them, under Unholy Ritual, and so yeah, I've always liked his stuff. And,
yeah, one of our closest friends is Mike Griffin of Hypnos Records, and they have a phenomenal catalog of ambient stuff.
Yeah.
Now, do you mostly listen to instrumental stuff, or I mean, I know some people who listen to music when they're writing, but nothing with any kind of vocal.
Yeah,
I'm that way. It has to be ambient for me.
Yeah. Yeah, I find lyrics distracting or vocals.
Oh, see, I love lyrics because here I am working on something weird, and all of a sudden you'll have a line, which has nothing to do with what you're working on, but a word or part of a phrase will just turn your text, 90 degrees, and
yeah, I've found things. I've had episodes like that happen. I don't seek them out, and I usually try to avoid the stuff with lyrics, but sometimes maybe the music just needs to, whatever it is specifically connects to what I'm doing and
right.
Of it. So I'll put up with the lyrics just because of whatever other kind of mood comes in. And so yeah, that's happened.
Okay. And when you're writing and you're listening, are your playlists extensive, or with me, a lot of times there might be 10 songs on my soundtrack for that particular text, but other times it's one single song, which maybe 3 minutes and 42 seconds, and I may have looped it 12 hours a day for a week while I worked on that text.
I never want to hear the fucking thing again, right?
Sometimes, yeah.
It's Barbra Streisand.
I know my wife is not a big Black Sabbath fan because I was working on something, and for the life of me, I don't remember what it was. But while I worked on the short story, which took, I believe, 2.5 weeks, I think it was 3 songs. I think it was the second side of the first Black Sabbath album.
Okay.
Loop. And she happened to be on vacation. So it was inescapable for her to hear these same goddamn 3 songs night and day nonstop for 2.5 weeks.
Did she not suggest buying you headphones?
I don't like headphones because the wires between me and the keyboard And one of the things that I do when I'm writing is I sing badly and I drum badly. So I'm typing and drumming at the same time, and the fucking wire gets in my way. And to me, it's all jazz. If I'm ripping through a sentence and I don't get it on the paper, it's gone.
Can't you guys just imagine video of Pulver writing? That would be.
Oh Jesus, that would be banned in 32 countries or something.
Yeah, you need to get somebody to hack his webcam and tap into.
Oh, well,
I think you're right. I might know someone who can do that. Yeah.
Whoa! Remember, Pulver's a tech bumpkin here. What do you mean hack my webcam?
You don't.
Like,
that's all
somebody
you.
can see
You
me?
don't need. You don't need to know anymore.
Yeah.
Don't worry about it.
Somebody potentially could see me?
Yeah.
It's,
Whoa! I don't like this technology shit anymore.
let me put it to you this way, Joe. When I don't have my webcam on, and I've got another one built into this screen, I've got a sticky note taped over it. So that's how paranoid I am about somebody.
Wait a minute. Why didn't anybody tell me this shit can occur?
Well, because we want to hack your webcam. That's why.
Thanks a lot.
We've been enjoying the show, Joe.
What, me singing badly, drumming badly, swearing at the computer screen?
It's wearing the thong.
Me and one of my bouts when I'm typing at light speed and crying?
Yeah,
Hey,
Everybody wants
There's
to
a whole
see that.
darknet feed from you.
It's the whole thing is raw material for a good remix video.
that's right. We will make millions.
You're a bunch of sick puppies.
No, I have another
bad.
question. I have
Now,
another
Matt's got a serious question. Guys, behave.
Okay.
I was trying.
I find it sort of fascinating that you're investigating art in multiple media. Do you have any other irons in the fire, like besides what you're writing now? Are you exploring any other avenues, like, I don't know, film, comic books, or anything with your work?
Oh, didn't he mention he makes porn films on the side?
They all star some guy who's drumming at his camera.
Oh, God. Ay. I'm going to hear about this forever now.
I like to shoot photos as well. That doesn't really feed in necessarily to anything else. I would like to do. I would like to do comic scripting if the opportunity arose. I did once a long time ago. I did some work for Glenn Danzig, parodic comic, but that ended badly. So that ended with a $4,600 rubber check. So.
Oh boy. Now your photography, is it outside photography? Is it nature photography? Is there any particular whatever about it that you find inspiring?
Sometimes I'll just be in that kind of a mood that day and just wander around and shoot whatever whatever comes to mind. I've got some of the better ones I put up on Facebook.
Oh, okay.
On my Facebook page. It's I think under a collection known as "But Is It Art?" I think is what I called it.
Okay.
By the way, to the audience, thanks for bearing with us a few minutes ago. I think Google Hangout didn't like Brian's computer for about 5 minutes there, and now then it cleared up, so everything's great now. But I have another question from the audience for you, Brian, from Kim, and she asks, in whom the gods would destroy the plot partly revolves around a certain yearly meteor shower. Did you have a particular reason for choosing that specific one? Yeah, if he's like most writers, he'd be like, I had a meteor shower in that book.
No, I remember that. I think it was. I did, but I don't remember. It might have been timing. It might have been the best one of the timing.
That's okay. Pulver can't remember anything of his story. That the second after he puts them down.
I think it was just a matter of timing.
Yeah. Okay.
Seasonal, and then I found out interesting things about it that they're not sure where it comes from. It's yeah, as I recall, it's the usual clauses of a meteor shower don't apply to that. There's something that has a tail that shouldn't. There's sort of the celestial oddities that they don't quite know what's going on with it. So I thought that was appealing to throw in as well when I found out about it. You know. A lot of times I'll just discover these things after the fact, after one thing was already said early on, and then later on I discover other reasons why it works a lot better even than I initially thought of. You know, so those things happen.
Yeah. You know, I've been interested in like you. I don't have a telescope or anything, but I'm very interested in astronomy. I have been since I was a little boy. What, if you remember, has it been that? Have you been interested in astronomy all your life, like me? What started you in astronomy? What fascinates you about it? It's just something I love. I wish I could have gone into it.
I don't know. I don't really have any kind of concrete time or concrete episode to. It's just one of those things that accrues over time. I think, you know, and then
Yeah.
You know, enjoying, you know, different science fiction movies and just the vistas of what gets captured by the Hubble telescope. You know, that's probably the greatest, you know, the most illuminating window that came along and really. Really captured the wonder of it all and just the strangeness of some of it.
And the hugeness of it.
Yeah, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Hubble Deep Field, that patch of black and
Yes.
all that stuff in it.
Yeah, it's difficult to contemplate. Hey, talk about the Hellboy novel a little bit. How'd that come about?
Well, a few years before the novel came up, Dark Horse did an anthology called Odd Jobs of Hellboy short stories, and Christopher Golden asked me into that. He said, "Are you know, Christopher Golden?" I think at the time, at least, I thought of him as Mike Mignola's liaison between the comics world and the prose world. And so, yeah, Chris was editing that. And I wasn't really that familiar with Hellboy at the time. I knew who the character was. I'd seen covers in the comic shop. But like a lot of people, I thought it was some sort of weird aviator with goggles. I didn't know those were sawed-off horn stumps. So he, I said, "Yeah, I'm interested." You know, I've flipped through the comics and a time or two, but I've never read anything. So he sent me a few of the graphic novels, and they just clicked with me. So a lot of at least one of them involved was there was different kinds of folklore that Mike Mignola was bringing in. So like I said earlier, I look for that area of overlapping interest when I get to play in somebody else's yard. And he was doing a lot of folklore, particularly British folklore. So I did a story about Hellboy encountering a resurrected Grendel from Beowulf. And so it ended up that Mike, I came to find out later, it was one of his favorite use of anybody else's uses of his characters. So when, after the first Hellboy movie came out, he licensed 4 books, I think, to Pocket Books, and well, Chris would be doing one, so they needed 3 other authors, and so because of the basis of that story, I was on the short list of people that they were interested in asking to do one, and so I was interested in it, and I had about a weekend to come up with an idea. So for a lot of the main things, or some of the main things in it, I was picking discarded ideas for things that I'd never gotten around to work with. I wanted to do something about the Masada scroll. There's a scroll rumored to have been found on a fortress called Masada that was in the Judean desert that was overrun by Romans around roughly 70 A.D. And I don't remember where I saw this, but there was supposedly, or at least rumors, that a scroll had been found there that was written by a Jesus who had survived the crucifixion. So I always was interested in doing something about that scroll. And then the idea of of a region in hell, or an empty chamber in hell, that has a statue big enough to hold a city in its outstretched hand. That came from one of those ill-fated comics projects that I did for Verotic, for Glenn Danzig.
And that's a great idea, phenomenal idea.
Well, it was such a cool thing that I'd written into this script. One thing that they hired me to do was a project for one of their in-house characters, Ygritte, I think was the name. She was Hell's assassin. She was very anorexic looking, except for huge boobs. And so I wrote the script, and I had these great visuals in it, and then everything went to hell there when Danzig decided he didn't want to pay people, and then people were asking where's payment, and what he did was to prove to everybody that they needed him was that he had his managing editor send out all the checks, then he drained the bank account, so they all bounced. He was willing to eat those charges just to be a prick. So so none of the stuff that I'd scripted ever saw print. So I had all these ideas in that, and that was one of the central visuals. So great, here's something to use it in. So,
yeah, what the hell? What an asshole.
Now, do you still listen to Danzig?
I didn't for a long time. I sort of can now, but probably the thing of his that I've watched most or listened to most is the Knockout video.
Okay.
And when the guy from Northside Kings he picked a fight with him and then got the one-punch knockout.
Wow. What are you working on now, Brian? What's coming up next?
I'm working on roughing out a book for something that I can't talk about probably yet.
That's okay. Nobody ever watches this. You can tell me.
Different pieces of short fiction. I'm wrapping up something else now within the next few days that again, it's another Lovecraftian thing. I probably shouldn't discuss it since I'm not finished it and not guaranteed the spot in it.
Right. Sure.
I need to do a story that's due probably in the middle of September that I've got kind of percolating in the back of my mind that Tales of the Lost Citadel. It was a Kickstarter project done by C.A. Solomon. Colin, he works for I think it's White Wolf, that he works for, and in his day job, and had this. So he really knows how to put together worlds, and he had this. He came up with this world, kind of this post-apocalyptic fantasy world. So it's part fantasy, part horror, and just enormous amount of potential for stories. And so I need to do something for that I'm locked into doing that. So those are taken. Those are going to be spending what I'm going to be spending the next few months on.
I'm always curious about a writer or editor's work habits. What's a typical day like for you? What's a day in the life of Brian Hodge? What usually happens?
Well, I used to be an afternoon and evening writer. I've morphed into a more of a morning writer now. I generally get up about between 6:30 and 7 and go for a walk just to kind of wake up, and then I'm at the computer. If I have enough discipline, I don't go online before I do that, and the morning usually goes better. So then I get my pages in in the morning. Then that way. That usually tends to work out the best.
Then whatever else happens during the day, you've got your writing in.
Yeah, that's the most challenging thing is to get those done to my satisfaction. So I'll do that and I'll work out. Try to put together promotional things that I know I should be doing more of. And, so those are usually the things that I try to hit every day in some form or another.
So you're able to make it full time as a writer?
Yeah. So it's feast and famine at times, but so you learn to live under your means usually.
Yeah. How long have you been full-time writer?
Since the late 80s.
Oh, wow. Long time.
After I sold my first two novels, they sold within about 3 months of each other. Yeah, that was the point at which I started weaning myself away from full-time paychecks.
Yeah. I'd rather live beneath my means and work for myself than work for somebody else.
Yeah.
Okay, we have any more questions for Brian? Rick?
No, I'm done.
Good.
I'm curious, what is the next thing that's going to come out published? Like, there are things you're working on, but is anything like in the can, just kind of in the pipeline, we're going to see it soon in print?
I've had a bunch of stuff come out this year already. I don't know that if anything's... Yeah, I don't know if anything's coming up immediately around the corner. If it is, I'm blanking. I know that I did something for an anthology that's going to be out early. You know, I've already got stuff slated into next year. One of them that I was really excited about, it was a story based on the Rush song "Witch Hunt." I did a story for a book of was asked by Kevin Anderson into an anthology that he was editing of stories inspired by Rush music. So that was a good one to do. That to me was always their most ominous song. So yeah, there's another one coming out next year that's again Lovecraftian. That's it's all the same road in the end. That's the name of the novella. That was Paul Duran edited. Like it's the Mammoth Book of Cthulhu. So yeah, so I think the next things that I'm aware of are out next year.
Well,
but that'll come out this year already.
I noticed that a lot of my readers are most familiar with Whom the Gods Would Destroy. So can you maybe, that was a year and a half ago or so that I talked to you about that novella. Can you talk about what has been published this year or after that point, that maybe those who are aware of that novella aren't aware of what you've done since, so they can go check those books out?
Well, yeah, the Dark City book, Within the Negative Spaces, where I got the book talking about earlier, that just came out earlier this month.
Yeah, read that book, everybody. That's a great story.
And so yeah, Cures for a Sickened World. That was in the Spectral Book of Horror Stories, that edited by Martin Morris. The Lone and Level Sands Stretch Far Away. That was in Dark Screams 3. That's a kind of a joint venture between Cemetery Dance and Random House. They're issuing the entire book in 5 chunks. I think the first one just came out, and then those are being put out by Random House. And, the bound volume is going to be coming out from Cemetery Dance eventually. I had another one that we didn't talk about. It doesn't really fit the theme. Called Eternal Ever Since Wednesday. That's a line stolen from Dylan Thomas. That was a tribute anthology to the editor that gave me my start, David Silva. That's in a book called Better Weird. He used to do a magazine called The Horror Show that gave a lot of people their start. So he died a couple of years ago. One of his friends, Paul Olson, put together and started a tribute anthology to him. What else is there? I know I'm leaving something out here.
Well, I did link to your Amazon page on today's post, so if anyone clicks on that, they'll take you right to your page.
Yeah, those are more the books rather than the individual.
That's true.
That are coming out.
Yeah. Well, for myself, for everybody watching, I really did love Whom the Gods Would Destroy. We talked about this before. Mentioned In the Negative Spaces in Dark City several times today. I really enjoyed that one. A lot of other readers would be familiar with your story, The Same Deep Waters as You, which has appeared several times.
Yeah, that was published, I think, about 4 times within a year. Between years.
You're trying to race Neil Gaiman for a Study in Emerald on that one, aren't you?
Yeah, I think at this, and it's been in print and audio. So I think at this point, just within a very short time, that's earned. It's probably the biggest earning story I've ever done, just because it had so many revenue streams coming in. So yeah, I'm happy with that on every level.
Well, it deserves it. It's a really good story. It really is.
Thank you.
One possible shape of things to come. I mentioned that
That's
one.
Eulogies 3. Yeah, that one I can.
It's in where? I'm sorry.
I can show the cover of that one. Eulogies 3.
Oh, okay.
That was the one I was forgetting. Yeah, that was the dimension thing. I knew I was forgetting one. Nancy would kill me if I forgot that one.
Well, it's.
What is the Lost Citadel?
Sorry?
The Lost Citadel?
Oh yeah, Tales of the Lost Citadel. That's a book that met its Kickstarter goals, and that's maybe be out next spring. Assume everything gets done.
Well, one possible shape of things to come is definitely fits the theme, but also scare the hell out of you if you're a parent, I think. So, you know. All right. Well, thanks, Brian.
Well, I got one more question if we got time.
Yeah.
All right.
I'm one of those writers who feel it's essential that we're constantly reading. If we're not reading, we can't write. So what are you reading? And who's working? Who's out there currently? I mean, you don't have to list them all, but who are some of the people you really enjoy reading their work nowadays?
I've read except for Occultation, which I'd read before. I think it was last year. I think I'm as soon as I get the darkness is the light. Is it or the light is the darkness?
Light is the darkness.
I've read his entire output this year, so I'm really enjoying that.
Laird is just phenomenal.
Yeah, I can show covers here for a minute there.
Yeah. Good question, Joe. I'm always curious about that too. Kind of like his background too.
He's neat.
Yeah, I'm reading. I haven't read Dean Koontz for a long time, and I ended up with somebody giving me a copy of this, Mr. Murder, so I'm reading that.
Mm-hmm.
Reading a book about body language. That's has to do with something I'm writing now. So I wanted the book anyway, and then found it on a remainder at Barnes & Noble a few months ago, and it factors into something I'm writing now. So that's an FBI.
Set on the cover, ex-FBI.
Yeah. Marketing book, getting everything you can out of all you've got. That came highly recommended from somebody I respect as far from a business sense. So, that. And I heard this guy in a podcast several months ago, Timothy Good, UFO researcher. So I thought that was interesting. Earth and Alien Enterprise. So those are the things I'm reading now.
Okay.
So you read a lot of nonfiction.
I do, yeah. A lot of that feeds in. You never know what's gonna trigger something, idea-wise, and so yeah.
Yeah, I've heard of Timothy Good. Are you reading that because you're interested in the ideas as far as writing fiction, or are you into UFOlogy at all? Or?
Well, he was such an interesting guest that I thought, well, this sounds like an interesting book, and I just wanted to see what it was. Yeah, it's an interesting topic, and just phenomenologically, I'm interested in what these things are that are being seen that have no easy swamp gas explanation.
Yeah. Well, speaking of that, the X-Files redo is going to be out soon, I think.
I know. I'm doing the countdown. I'm watching the whole series again on Amazon Prime.
Yeah. When does that come out?
I think it's about January 16th. I saw around there.
Yeah, it's not a whole season. It's kind of like a mini series, isn't it?
Episodes. I'm gonna want more.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know what direction they could go that they haven't explored before, but I'm looking forward to it.
Well, it's supposed to wrap things up somehow. I don't know how they do that, but yeah,
Uh,
wait and see. I'm just
yeah.
I'm just enjoying seeing the old ones again because I never rewatched any of them again. It was always just one viewing and that was it. So I don't. So a lot of these things I have no memory of. And it's always interesting to see who turns up and that. You know, I know him from later work, but I didn't know him at the time. So like Jack Black and Giovanni Ribisi were in one last week that I watched. So that was So it's fun to see who and what turns up.
Yeah, who's the guy from? I just blanked. Oh, Breaking Bad. What's that guy's name? Anybody know?
Bryan Cranston.
Bryan Cranston.
Yeah, he was in an X-Files episode. He was in that episode about where they have to maintain a certain speed. He's driving the car, and otherwise something happens to him. I don't remember exactly. It's been a long time, but
It's hard to imagine he was once the father in Malcolm in the Middle.
Yeah,
yeah, that's true.
comic stupid dad. Yeah.
Yeah.
He was in How I Met Your Mother too. I don't know how we got on this topic. Oh, X-Files. Yeah, this is the Bryan Cranston show. So.
You took us down this little rabbit hole. It's your fault. You're to blame.
Let's blame Brian. So.
I'll take the hit. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thanks, Brian. You gonna stick around with us while we talk about Necronomicon? You should go sometime. It's up to you.
I need to do domestic things here. I could probably I haven't talked to Dolly much today because I was getting ready for this, and she was gone part of it, and I was working on other stuff. So I'm gonna go off and be part of a couple now, though. Again.
All right.
All right.
Thanks for being on the show.
I could only eavesdrop too, because since I wasn't there at Necronomicon, I could only eavesdrop and try to nod sagely every now and then. So.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. Thanks for being on the show.
Okay, thanks for having me.
It was a pleasure.
Dude,
So, sorry about all the for people watching. Sorry we had some technical difficulties, but I think we did a video test, but I think his Macintosh doesn't like Google Hangout very much. So, Hey Pete, how's it going?
Good. Sorry, guys. I had to, oddly enough, my family wanted to spend some time with me tonight.
How's the hurricane watch?
So here's the funny thing, is that we were for a long time, Palm Beach was the target, and then the storm sort of fell apart, and we were told that we weren't going to get tropical force or even hurricane force winds anymore, but we were going to get 3 to 5 inches of rain. And around 4 o'clock this morning, it rained, and I fell back to sleep finally, and I woke up around 7, and I pulled up the radar, and the entire state of Florida is covered with rain, except for Palm Beach County. We're sort of like, it rolled through and then stopped, but we were in a clear zone.
So what you're saying is you had the yacht moved out of harm's way for no reason whatsoever.
That is a problem. Yes, I blew a couple thousand gallons worth of fuel.
Jeez.
So.
Why don't you send some of that Florida rain my way?
Well, Florida we were about 10 inches down in some parts of the state. Miami was, I think, 9 inches. Broward was 6, and Palm Beach was 3. We were all in a drought. We had not gotten a lot of rain this year.
Well, you know what Danielle told me? It rained and got cool while I was gone to Providence.
Yeah, of course. Of course.
Is
Meanwhile, it
this
was hot and rainy in Providence, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Is this then seen as a positive development since you got rain?
Yeah, I don't think there's been a lot of damage reported. When I get back into the office, I'll pull up some damage reports and see what's going on. But I don't think we got as much rain as everybody thought we were going to get. But I could be wrong.
Well, so Necronomicon, I know we all had a good time. We were all there. Whoever wants to talk, maybe give a synopsis or talk about some of your favorite parts of the convention.
I could start. The thing is, you'll see these things online. You'll read about the books. You may see tapes of the panels. To me, none of those are the best thing about the convention. The best things are they're two things that you can't do through reading a book or whatever. One is just being around all these really great people. It's just an irreplaceable experience. It was so fun.
Here.
And then the other is there's some things that you can't see unless you're there. For example, I got to go to the John Hay Library, walk up the fucking hill in the heat, nearly die, but then I got to see 3 of Clark Ashton Smith's sculptures, real drawings, the actual drawings by Robert Bloch, and H.P.
Yeah, and I reposted those for everyone who saw those on the eZine Facebook page. Matt had to walk up the fucking hill so that you could see those.
Well, but to see like Lovecraft's manuscript page for The Lurking Fear, you know, but that's kind of even that. It's like, how does that compare to being around such great people? It made it great.
Aw, thanks, my.
I was gonna say you're talking
Lots
about
of great people and Pete.
Of course.
And also, you know, live performances. You know.
Well, you know, if we want to mention standouts, Kenny and Ramsey Campbell were quite fun to socialize with.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. They're very nice people, very down to earth.
I lucked out because on my last day there, I had breakfast with the Campbells. But pure accident in the Cthulhu prayer breakfast.
Well.
Well, that's good because weren't you kind of yelling at me for having lunch with him earlier?
Yeah, you had lunch with them and didn't invite us along.
Joe was there.
I would have paid.
I was there.
Joe reminded me during last week's chat that he was there.
I'm sorry, I wasn't rubbing it in or anything. I was just, I had a great.
No, I'm just kidding you, Joe.
It was a fabulous lunch, and I did some business at lunch as well, so I was really happy about that. Really, 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 really happy about that.
Well, I would have invited y'all if I could, but...
Well, you know, my one regret, which I've compensated for, was that I couldn't find a Joe Pulver t-shirt for sale.
Oh my God.
I managed to get David Felton's, just holding that up.
Oh, cool.
Sorry, let me put it on the screen. Hold that. There you go.
Yeah, wow. I managed to buy the drawing, but I discovered online where you can buy this as a T-shirt, as well as another T-shirt I never knew about, in which the King in Yellow wears your face.
Oh yeah, everywhere, grayness and rain. Yep. Yeah, I got a couple of T-shirts. It was kind of hilarious to me to see so many people wearing them. And some of the people who were wearing them, it's like, oh my God, you know.
Well, they're very popular because they're sold out at the convention. Nobody had one. You had to give one away at.
Yeah, we gave one.
Chat.
We gave one away at the chat. Yep.
This is like a milestone. This is how you know when you've made it, when they put your face on a T-shirt. So the rest of us, we're still reaching, but Joe's made it.
Well, you know,
I'm just shuddering at the possibility that maybe we'll have Pete Rollick Reanimator T-shirts.
Well, we did make him famous at the convention, but not on a T-shirt. So.
I just got a book in the mail, Kanye West Reanimator.
Oh yeah, I've seen pictures of.
What?
I'm not kidding.
No, I know.
Pete, are you writing the books under?
I had nothing to do with this. This is not my fault. I will take the blame for lots of stuff. I will, you know, that thing with the goat. That was my fault. Okay. I did not have anything to do with Kanye West Reanimator. If anything, I think Molly Tanzer greenlit that shit. So,
I don't know. I can see you on your yacht, parked right next to Kanye on his yacht, and you turning them on to Reanimator, and the next thing you know, you're going to have the rap Reanimator film and
Well,
the
you know that
soundtrack.
there is a music group called Reanimators.
And I have no doubt whatsoever that Kanye likes that Reanimator porn.
Oh, Repenetrator? Yeah.
Yeah, if that's what you want to call it. Yeah.
Wow.
I've got it in the collection someplace.
Well, have any of you seen the trailer for the new Frankenstein movie?
No.
No.
It seems like they're recasting Frankenstein as Herbert West.
Oh, really? Is that what
Because
the one with
whole
Daniel Radcliffe?
Yeah, it's the actor who played Professor X from the X-Men, who played the younger Professor X in the X-Men franchise.
Oh, yeah.
And Igor is played by the
Radcliffe,
actor
right?
from Harry Potter,
Daniel Radcliffe.
Daniel Radcliffe. And they're stressing the Igor-Victor Frankenstein relationship as if they're pals and they're equals. And this is West and Daniel Kane.
Yeah, maybe.
Two guys running around reanimating bodies, having debates over it.
Mm.
I mean, Igor is not in Mary Shelley.
No.
And the original version in Universal Horror was a guy named Fritz who was a hunchback. And then he became, in the third movie, the son of Frankenstein, Bela Lugosi, who had a crooked neck from being hanged and was sort of a ghoul. So there's no justification to make him sort of a social friend of Frankenstein. I think it's total influence of Reanimator.
How many Frankenstein movies do we need?
Too many.
Lots more.
Didn't we just have one a couple years ago with, I forget his name, the guy that was Two-Face on The Dark Knight?
Well, there was I, Frankenstein, which had
That's
nothing at all about like Frankenstein fighting devils or demons or gargoyles or something.
Something.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm all for
That
more
was the
Frankenstein. I'm all for more Frankenstein, provided it's good.
That wasn't very good, no.
Well, you know,
There is I'm gonna plug this. I haven't read it yet. But Rick, our friend Frank Schindler, he just
yeah, I've read it. The Quest of Frankenstein,
yeah.
Children. I've got it. Let me grab it.
All right, I haven't gotten it yet. Essentially, Frankenstein finds Herbert West and asks him to make him a girlfriend. And West sends them on a quest to get all the things they need.
The things they need. Yeah. Like
Parts.
body parts?
Body
Yeah.
That's like an episode of Penny Dreadful.
Yeah.
Yeah, I still gotta watch season 2 of Penny Dreadful. I love season 1. Alright, so what books did you guys buy at
Okay,
Necronomicon?
I want to start.
Yeah, go ahead.
All right. One of the highlights to me was having someone come up who I was dying to get my greedy paws on their book, and I come late to the game. But this is The Glittering World by Robert Levy. It's his debut, and just knocked my socks off. I mean, he's got blurbs from Kelly Link and Laird Barron and Elizabeth Hand, so I can't recommend this highly enough.
You talked to me about it earlier today. The premise looks extremely interesting to me.
Yeah. Go to Amazon, take a peek at this book. If it's up your alley, the writing is phenomenal. This guy is a master wordsmith. It's a great story. His characterization is wonderful. This was just a joy to read. It's like, wow.
Mhm.
So I love things that come out of the blue, especially when it's something that's on your radar and you haven't got around to.
But by the way, this is The Quest of Frankenstein by Frank Schilden.
Okay.
And to plug Pete in my book, gonna get Legacy of the Reanimated here. I started to read this. I haven't finished it because I'm trying to fulfill a writing deadline.
I like how they use me for the cover.
Well,
Well, I'm glad you have a copy, and I know Joe got a copy.
I got a contribute. Yep. I would have thought you.
well, you were doing the book signing along with me.
So here's what happened. Nick came to me and said, "You want your copies?" And I looked at the table, and there were only like 14 copies left.
Guys, I'll be right back. I'm going to go grab a couple of books that I got there.
And if I had taken my contributor copies as editor, I would have wiped it out. And I would much rather have people take copies or buy copies that they want than to just take them and deplete the reservoir.
Well, you could have taken a couple.
In my case, it would have cost so much to ship to Germany.
Right. Well, and I had the flip side of that. In my case, I was owed a case.
Oh, okay.
And I would have had to take, it would have doubled my luggage weight.
Wait a minute, you're getting a case of the book?
Yeah, 10 to 15 copies.
I think I'm getting ripped off. I'm going to be doing some complaining.
Well, I only got I only got 3 copies.
See, my payment, my whole payment for A Lonely and Curious Country is 5 copies of the book. And I got one copy, but I wanted to leave the others there, just like Pete said, so they could sell.
Yeah.
And speaking of payments, Mr. Carpenter, you still haven't sent me your check for being allowed to contribute to this.
You remember what Brian Hodge said about checks bouncing?
Oh, you mean your wife took your credit cards and your checkbook away since you returned home?
She's got me on a shorter leash, shall we say.
Mm-hmm.
Well, one thing, Pete, that I wanted to bring up, I was a little surprised how well a story by Richard Lee Byers, The Horror on the Freighter, fit in with my own story in a strange way.
Oh yes. Don't think I didn't catch that.
And I was glad I wrote my story in a certain way and referred to a character by a different name.
Yep.
So this way you didn't have to edit it to make directly tie it in.
It all worked.
It all worked out somehow.
Yes. I'll just take credit I'll just be a brilliant editor and say I planned it that way.
Yeah.
And I want to talk a little bit more about this book if I can.
Yeah, I was going to do that too. Go right ahead.
Why don't you mention all the contributors?
Well, first off, it is the Necronomicon Providence 2015 Round Robin, which I had the privilege and honor of editing. And the contributors are Ramsey Campbell. That's Jenny Campbell's sidekick for those who don't know who he is.
Mm-hmm.
Selena Chambers, Todd Ciccone, Cisco, Sam Cowan did the phenomenal design and layout work. There's somebody in this book named Mike Davis. I don't know. These people cry and you got to give them a break. Some newbie.
Is that what happened?
Yeah, that's it. You put them in and shut them up.
I can't tell you how many people praised Mike's story to me.
They did?
Yes. They thought it was an excellent opening.
Oh.
Yeah, it was phenomenal.
Thank you.
I'm glad I had the idea.
I'm glad you did too. And that was brilliant, you coming up with the tweeting idea.
There he goes again. Can't tell if he's joking or not.
Oh, yeah. Sorry.
Michael Griffin. We have our cover art by, of course, Nick Gucker.
Yeah.
Yeah, but let me put something on screen a second. What I really like here. I don't know if you can read that or not. Incident report
yes.
of Officer K.L. Young.
Yeah.
Yep. Oh, you know what? And because he couldn't be there, I made sure he was at the King in Yellow panel. My wingman, I
You
couldn't
know
keep
what?
him
Some
out.
things cannot be unseen.
They
Yeah.
cannot be unseen. We also have Niels Hobbs was a contributor.
Mm-hmm.
Tom Lynch, Anya Martin, Daniel Mills, Gage Prentice did some phenomenal artwork for us. Just blew my mind what he did. Bob Price is in here. Some guy, let me see if I can pronounce this. Rawlik?
It's Raw Lavak.
Raw Levak.
The
I
V-
thought it was
Another one of those that,
Ray Licky.
you let him in the book to shut him up.
Wasn't that the name of a French anarchist, Pete?
I think so.
Yeah, I think so.
One of my favorite writers out there, who I bug about more and more and more all the time, Jaya Prakash.
Yeah, you know what? We got to get him over.
We got to get him over, but more important, and if you're listening, bro, get your ass in the chair and keep typing, because we need a collection.
He has a collection.
We need a big fat one. That was a little mini thing.
Okay.
Our poet laureate, Ann Schrader, is in here. Justin Steele.
Steely.
Jeff Thomas. And some
Billy
guy,
J,
Scott
we love you,
Thomas,
Billy
who
J.
wrote something, The Sea of Ash, which I finally got a copy of. Yeah.
There's another book that sold out.
Yeah,
Another one.
Good.
And Damien Angelica Walters, whose new book is out and is phenomenal. She's fantastic. And this little thing sold out.
Yeah,
But,
there you go.
but before I leave the doom that came to Providence, there are approximately 60 copies left. And
Okay, so because we're getting this question a lot. Yeah, go on.
there are approximately 60 copies left. When they get the website updated, they will be for sale. So there will be. Just keep watching Culver's page on Facebook and Mike and the eZine public board. We're going to be shouting about these as soon as they are available. And then down the road, when all copies have sold out, we're going to do a special issue of Lovecraft eZine or a supplemental issue, and we are going to attempt to reproduce this as closely as possible in the eZine. And the reason I say attempt is Mike Davis's tweets look like tweets. We have a police report by Tom Lynch that looks like a police report. Matt Carpenter did like an ER. I don't know, Matt, explain to them what it is. When you go into a hospital and the doctor first looks at you, like broken bone, this and that. So Matt did that. Damian Walters' piece looks like a crumpled up note. Justin Steele had come up with the idea of doing a pamphlet, which would have happened at the event and been laying around, so it looks like a pamphlet. You know, something like that. Gage Prentice, we have a photograph. You know, so it's not just straight text.
Yeah, so when we say attempt to reproduce it in Lovecraft eZine, we really do mean attempt. You'll get the gist of this, and we'll try, but this is the real deal here. This is not meant to usurp that. It's just, if after all the copies are sold out, people are going like, geez, I really wish I could read it, then we'll try to fulfill that need.
You'll get to read it, but it won't be I think this round robin came out really wonderful. Sam Cowan did an utterly amazing job with his design and layout work.
Yeah.
Every one of my ideas, can we make this look like that, and can we do this? He just went, yep, we'll do it, yep, okay, yep. And he did it. Knocked it out of the park. And Sam Collins has the micro-publisher, Dim Shores.
Yeah,
So
this really is a collector's item.
It is, and you know, getting to read the stories in order, to see the visuals that are inside the book, and be it Matt, be it Pete. I mean, some people wrote real stories, whereas like Matt and Tom just reproduced. You know, Matt did a doctor's report, Tom did a first responders report, but everybody just did marvelous, marvelous work. They are presented in hopefully a semi-logical order of how this event would have unfolded, because what they all are is witness reports to a Cthulhuan event that occurs at the last Necronomicon Providence. I just think it's not your typical round robin, and I think everybody did a great job. I know the contributors, everyone was quite pleased. Certainly Niels was extremely pleased with the idea and the execution and what the contributors brought.
A lot of people got a copy of this book with all of our signatures on it, so that's
right.
pretty
Well,
cool.
Yeah, we sold.
I don't know if
we
that's
sold
the,
a
I
lot of
don't know if
copies.
those 60 copies that are left are signed or not. I suspect not. I don't
Well,
remember.
there wouldn't have been any copies left, other than the fact is it was where it was in the dealer's room was a little bit out of the way, and a lot of people didn't realize it was there and see it. So, but
Right, so that guy
oh
with
yeah,
sent me this.
I have that.
I have that. I finally found where I hid it.
Yeah.
My wife cleaned my library for it, and I thought she snuck it away somewhere, but I'd actually hid it in the bookshelf so it would never be lost.
I put it on the
Well,
turntable.
yeah, this is a booklet for those that think it's a record. It's a little chapbook, and it's pretty cool. It's by Kelly Young.
yep.
I asked Kelly. There are a few copies left. Just Google Strange Eons magazine. He's selling it there at the Strange Eons website.
And that was another book I was just over moon to get my hands on.
Yeah.
Let us not forget the Lurking Chronology.
Oh, geez.
Oh, yep, that was there.
The first copy of that.
I've heard of that book. Yeah.
Yeah,
I've gotten a lot of traction on that book this week. People are loving that book. I get a lot of texts and emails.
Oh, that's good, Pete. I really started pushing it a few days ago. And Pete can talk more eloquently about this than I can, but having written it, all I did was publish it. But it is available in print and Kindle. And Steve Santiago did a really, really wonderful job of coming up with something that coming up with a great cover.
Yeah, well, Steve always does a great job.
Yeah.
I mean, we'll get to it in a couple minutes, but Steve also did the cover for Casilda Song.
Yeah.
Great cover. Everybody's raving about.
My friend and yours, Vince LaRosa, wrote a book called Lightning's Call, Tesla and Malone, Lightning's Call, Book 1, and this is actually it's sort of I haven't read it yet, but it's a sort of a fun steampunk Lovecraftian book. So if you're into that sort of thing, go to Amazon, Lightning's Call. It's available for $2.99 on Kindle right now. There will be a print edition, I'm told, in a couple of weeks or so. Something like that. That's what I hear. So that sort of
So
thing.
that's Malone from the horror at Red Hook.
No, it's
Sorry?
not. I don't think it is.
Are you trying to start shit?
No, I was just wondering if it was the guy from the horror at Red Hook,
No,
Thomas
you're
Malone.
trying. No, you're trying to start shit. That's what you're doing.
Well, I do that inadvertently all the time.
Dennis Malone. He's a character Vince created. That's all I know.
Yeah, Dennis Malone is Vince's character.
Okay,
Yeah.
not Thomas Malone.
Thomas Malone is from the horror at Red Hook.
Oh,
Yeah.
there we go. There we go. Yeah.
But it was the name was probably inspired by
Yes.
Thomas Malone.
And one of the things that went on book-wise at the convention, Scott Nicoley's new chapbook after Lois Gresh's edited an anthology called Innsmouth Nightmares. Scott Thomas's A Sea of Ash, my King and Yellow Tales that Mike also published.
Sold out.
All these books sold out
Yeah.
at the convention. I mean, there were all kinds of new things everybody was waiting to get their paws on, and man, they just sold out.
Well, what I liked, and I'm going to toot my own horn for a minute, but with Legacy of the Reanimator coming out, it brings a whole bunch of stuff that's been out of print for a long time, Joe, back into reality.
Yeah.
Where people could actually read it and not.
Yeah, if you were reading C.J. Henderson, you would wonder what's he referring to.
Right. Right.
Eternity. If you were reading his novel, The Eternity of Self, he tied in directly to the Round Robin.
Right. But there have been attempts to reprint those Reanimator sequels a couple times now, and they've all floundered. So we finally got them back out into print, and I'm really happy to have done that.
Now, I would love to see an anthology of all the, maybe since these have been reprinted, we could exclude them, but like at least all the other Round Robins. Maybe the Doom That Came to Providence is too recent.
Too early, yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
well, yeah. In fact, because there was a round robin I did that included Ligotti and Cisco and a bunch of British guys called Sailing Into Night years ago. And you don't see round robins that include Thomas Ligotti every day.
No.
And this was printed in somebody's collection years ago and has never been reprinted. And it's, like I said, Ligotti was one of the people who contributed. Cisco contributed. It's just weird fiction, but what weird fiction it is. It would be nice to see a round robin book.
Yeah.
There's also, I don't know if any of you are familiar with a round robin called Othum that Brian Lumley wrote the first chapter for, called The Last Rite, and The Last Rite's been available.
I've heard
but
of
not the other parts to it. I have it. It was published in Witchcraft and Sorcery around '71, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yep, it would be real neat to see a...
All right, so I'm just scrolling down the message board. I want to get back to the books, but I thought you guys were kidding me. There really is a Kanye West Reanimator?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
And
a physical copy.
Mad world.
well, one thing since the horror of Red Hook was mentioned, the H.P. Lovecraft Historical Society has two new radio dark adventure radio presentations. One is the horror at Red Hook, and the other I was a little surprised by, Dagon War of the Worlds.
Yeah, I want to hear that.
I went to the premiere of that. They did a live radio play performance of that Saturday at like 7:30. Or was it Friday? I forget. It was phenomenal.
Yeah, it's Dagon done in the style of War of the Worlds. In some ways, it's sort of a sequel to both Dagon and The Shadow over Innsmouth, and has characters from the Whisper in Darkness movie.
It was very entertaining live, I gotta say.
Yeah.
I don't.
It's all news bulletins telling about how the deep ones are rising up.
I don't know what room I put it in. I don't want to waste a lot of time looking for it now. I'll show it on next Sunday's show. But Dave Felton did a really a funny story. Dave Felton asked me if there's any of his scratch boards that I wanted, and I said, "Well, yeah, it'd be great if I could have the one." I've got a story called "The Red Brick Building" that was in the Necronomicon book last weekend, and he illustrated it. And so I said I'd love to have the scratch board for that, and he said it's sold. And I said, oh, okay, well, I'll think of something else. And then the next day, Jeffrey Thomas comes over and hands it to me. He had bought it for me, so that was nice of him.
Jeff, what a great guy.
Yeah.
He's a wonderful fellow.
So, Joe.
Yes, sir.
The round robin that you did was with John B. Ford, and
yes.
The book was called The Evil Entwines.
That's the book it appeared in, yes.
2002 Hardcastle. There's one copy available for $94.
Oh.
The other copies range from $300 to $500.
Mm.
So I'll be picking it up tomorrow.
Bet you will.
See, Peter's already.
Like I said, it was an odd little idea I had at the time, and even Legati agreed, you know. So it was like, okay, let's start rolling, and it was just a hell of a lot of fun.
Yeah, that's the kind of stuff that we need to bring back into print.
Yeah, I mean,
yes,
it was heartbreaking that it was the only place it ever appeared.
Yeah.
I mean,
even if those are uneven and don't quite work as a overall story, they're fun to read and see how writers differ from one another.
Right.
Yeah, you know, if nothing else, somebody could create Kindle editions of all of those. That would be pretty cool.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of, is this going to be available on Kindle as well, Joe? Or?
What?
Silver's Song.
The song.
I believe it is.
Okay.
I wish we had more copies. We would have sold more copies. I bet you we would have sold more copies of Reanimators, Legacy of the Reanimators, too.
Yeah, you know.
I wish he had had more copies of A Lonely and Curious Country, because it also sold out.
Well,
and again, all these new releases that were at the convention, that's what I heard from everybody. Oh, that's sold out. That's sold out. Oh, you know, that's going to be sold out by the end of the afternoon. It's like, well, wait a minute. What about tomorrow? Well, there won't be any copies.
Yeah, I forgot to nab a copy of A Lonely and Curious Country. I realized on the ride home.
Oh, I'm going to be sending you a copy, Mike.
Oh.
No, I've only read one story in that collection because I have this writing deadline to do, and I can't get to all these wonderful books I bought. And that was Pete's, and it was phenomenal.
Well, you know, up until Matt heard me read the collection of Gibson Flynn, my tribute to Ramsey Campbell, I think that story in there was my best piece ever.
And I would say your judgment is right. The Ramsey Campbell tribute is
the Ramsey Campbell tribute
slightly superior. They're both excellent.
I gotta say, I'd love to get a copy of that in print, Pete. I can't tell you, that was just a great experience to be in that room and hear the story, because you read with great inflection, and it was just
and they luckily scheduled the authors so Pete would be last.
Well, we worked that out beforehand, but I know a lot of people don't like to go last, but I do. I like the back cleanup, and Joe knows this. You know, I do. I like the back cleanup. I like to do things different, and I don't think I went a little long, but I know I read longer than everybody else.
Yeah,
No,
Pete likes the back cleanup the way I like to be number one. I like to start them.
Yeah.
Pete, it didn't run long because, first of all, the thing finished on time, and second, I didn't feel like anything was dragging. It's like I wasn't like checking my watch. So it was pretty compelling stuff.
Mike walked out on me, but
Well, Mike's piece was pretty short, and so was Scott.
Told you the reason why I had to leave.
I know. I'm just giving you a hard time.
And who wrote that wonderful Halloween story?
Oh, yeah, it was a good Halloween story.
Oh, the
David something.
Nielsen.
Yeah.
The guy who did two one-man shows. David Nielsen, right?
Right.
David Nielsen.
Yeah, when he was reading that, I thought, man, that guy's got to be an actor.
He is a very effective reader. He was very effective.
A one-man show of The Call of Cthulhu, and then he did a one-man show where he combined the stories From Beyond and The Statement of Randolph Carter, and they were both superb. It was really entertaining. He's like a professional storyteller.
Yeah.
Yes, that showed in his rendering.
Yeah.
Aaron on the message board says, I might have missed it if it was announced, but is there any chance of the Doom that came to Providence being available in the ebook form? My first thought was, yeah, you must have missed it, but then actually I thought we really didn't cover that.
No, because we never envisioned it because of the amount of art within the book.
Right.
Yeah. The answer to that question is we could probably get the gist of it done in a Kindle book, but it's not. Again, I stress it won't be as cool as this book.
Yeah,
if you want to read it, though,
This is a book you need a physical copy in your hand.
Yeah.
Again, Sam Cowan. Every time I said, hey, I want to do these to look like real tweets, I want to do this to look like a real handbill, Sam Cowan just said, yep, okay, we'll see what we can do.
I mean, I'll be honest, I'm almost afraid to do it because it's not going to measure up at all. The only reason to do it is if people are just saying, hey, I know it's not going to be like the original, but I just want to read it, with that understanding.
Well,
to make it known, because I remember how overwhelmed I was when I read in Lynn Carter's Guide to the Cthulhu Mythos. There was a round robin called Challenge from Beyond that had Lovecraft, Robert E. Howard, Frank Belknap Long, A. Merritt, and C.L. Warren.
Yeah.
I was saying,
And you
my
couldn't
God,
find it.
why isn't that readily available?
Nope.
Luckily, a few years later, it did come out in a paperback anthology.
well,
Yeah.
at some point, those of us behind the Doom that came to Providence will have a talk with Niels. Well, let's let him breathe and get a little bit of rest, and we'll bring up the subject of an ebook.
Yeah, don't get me
mean,
wrong. I think we could make it look nice. It could be a nice ebook, but you're not
Right.
gonna.
But I never envisioned this as an ebook. This was a tribute to the festival, to the convention.
Mm-hmm.
It's all the proceeds go to the convention. All the contributors donated their work.
Hey, wait, what?
Wait,
Wait,
what? I got
what?
paid.
Sorry, what? You told me I was going to get
Except for
$500.
Matt Carpenter, Pete Rawlik, and Mike Davis, who owe me big ass checks for being in the book. So.
I'm afraid that any check I write is a big-ass check, but that's another story.
But like I said, I never envisioned this as an ebook, but we will explore the possibility down the road if it can be done decently. But again, this is we'll check. I mean, again, this is the kind of thing where the convention is not making money, ladies and gentlemen. So every little thing we can do to support them, like they have T-shirts. Buy the T-shirts from the convention. The convention needs your support, and one of the best ways to support it, of course, is to buy convention merchandise, which they paid to have made and still have quantity of. But we'll definitely at some point in the future, fairly soon, not next week, not the week after, we'll talk to Niels and we'll see what's what. And
yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
no, and again, that's one of the reasons it's going to appear as something with the Lovecraft eZine, because I think this is a really pretty cool thing, and we want people to be able to read it.
Yeah.
But first we want all physical copies sold out.
Yeah.
Because that money goes to the convention.
And that's not so unheard of. There's a few publishers out there who will do the signed limited and then the hardcover, and they won't release the paperback until the hardcover is sold out.
Right. And again, it costs money to reproduce these books. They weren't print on demand. They were printed. There's a ton of them. Not left, of course, but there was a ton of, quite a few. And, we want them sold out. That's convention dollars. So
Right.
It's imperative that we all went, we all had fun, or, I know there are people out there who didn't get to go, but hopefully you get to go next time. And if we're not nurturing the convention after it's over, then we won't have a next time.
Yeah.
These people put in, Niels and everyone who works with him, they put in vast amounts of time and effort and creativity and money to put on this. Everybody sitting here will tell you it was an absolutely wonderful convention, and we would like another bite at the apple. I already talked to Niels about what the next round robin will be, so I was privileged to get to edit the first one, and now the second one, and my evil brain is already at work on the third. So we'll talk about that. We might even let Rollick participate if the check shows up.
Can I just make a comment? Another thing they're going to do probably as a fundraiser is they're talking about putting out a DVD of highlights from Necronomicons.
Yeah, cool.
And the thing is, this would go back in time, and they have like one of the panels I went to that I had to miss one of Joe's panels to go to this. They had the Wayback Machine, and Marc Michaud was on there, and Pierre Comtois and Daryl Schweitzer about the original conventions, and they showed taped interviews of Robert Bloch and Gahan Wilson from 1993, and then they also had clips of panels like about Clark Ashton Smith from the 1993 convention. So they're going to have like highlights, I think, from all the conventions. At least this is the plan. Joey Zone, the Joey Zone, Joey. He told me that was on the table as a possibility.
Yeah,
and if it came out, that'd be a great way to get a little memento of your great memories, see what you missed, and support the future cons.
Well, and that's the other thing we should probably mention. There was so much going on that it was impossible to do not even half, a third of what you wanted to do.
Oh, yeah.
I mean...
And people, too, that you want to spend more time with.
But as an adjunct to what Pete just said, even though you were missing things you badly wanted to see or do, nobody walks away with any regrets because the experience was so rich for all of us.
Joey, if you're watching, I do have a regret. I wanted to spend more time with you, and it just slipped away.
There is
a great guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, Joey Shea is just a treasure and a gift to the convention.
I think the most... Look, I knew it was going to be fun. I didn't realize how much fun Lovecraftian trivia in the bar was going to be.
And those questions were so hard. I think when I didn't participate, but during a practice round with Pete, I think I only got 6 of them.
Yeah, they were good questions though, and they were.
I am bummed about this because I went to see Monstrous Invisible and then the New York Radio Theater performance, which, by the way, they give. I think you can download free podcasts. If they have The Curse of Yig, you will never hear it done better. So when I got over to the bar, it was already past 9 o'clock, and the
It
place
was standing
full.
room only.
So I said, you know what? I'm old. I'm gonna go sit down and get something to eat. But I'm sorry I missed the whole thing.
And
It's one of those things where it was a choice I made.
I think we had a 20 by 20 room, and we had 75 to 100 people in there.
I like the fact that you read the answer to the last question as part of your response to the first question, and not too many people caught up on it.
You know, the funny. Okay, so if you weren't there, the first question was, you know, what were the 2 round robin sequels to Herbert West Reanimator? And you know, the answers are Herbert West Reincarnated and Herbert West Reanimated. And then I listed off all the authors who participated, and there's 10. And the last question was, who are those 10 authors?
And you
I
got
had to remember them for an hour.
reach or something.
But-
yeah, Vince got a little video for me, just a little bit of your trivia. It looked pretty cool. I was sick, but it looked really, really cool.
Yeah, we had a good time.
You know, but and everywhere you turn at the convention, there's creators. There's something to do. There's something to see. The bars are full of people you recognize. Out in front of the bars, in the streets, in the lobbies. You know, the dealer's room was really wonderful. It was all in one place this year, which was great.
Yeah.
What a collection of things to obtain and creators sitting there.
I gotta say, it
to
served
sign
its purpose. Have you ever heard of the phenomenon of social facilitation? It's a behavior thing. Where, like, if you have a chicken out in the barnyard, it starts pecking at a certain rate. If you put 5 chickens, they start pecking faster. If you put a whole flock, they peck really fast. And so when you go to the dealer's room, there are all these people buying books. You say, my God, I got to get everything before.
Absolutely. You get 3 people buying Casilda's song, and all of a sudden people are like, what's that? What's that? Oh, I wanted that. Oh, my God. You know, and then you got 10
you know, when I got into real estate, this was over 20 years ago. At the end of the class, when we were about to be certified or whatever, the guy goes, the teacher, he had written this little mini booklet. Remember, this is in 1995. He had written this little booklet about real estate, and he wanted to sell them to us for like $5 a pop. So nobody was too interested. He goes in the next room, and he comes and brings them out. He goes, and he sells 2 of them. And then he holds up the other one. He goes, only one left. Who wants it? And all of a sudden, everybody's hand goes up. So he sells it to the guy, and then he goes back in the other room, and he goes, okay, only one left. Who wants it? So I learned something.
You know,
you're standing there, and there's a whole bunch of people, and it's a mini feeding frenzy, and somebody walks by, and it's like, oh my God, I hope there's one left when I get out to the. It's like, yeah, okay, we got a few. Relax. You're definitely gonna get one.
Yep.
Oh, I thought I was gonna be late. I heard from 2 people I was walking by that it was almost sold out. Well, it is almost sold out, but you know, there's one you'll get one.
You know, I'm just thinking about this, and I've been to a lot of cons. I've been going to cons for 20 years now. And I would say that the ratio of creators to guests is significantly higher at Necronomicon.
But
than
Pete, whether it's you or Rick or me or Laird or Langan or Cisco or Damian Walters, Ann Schvader, we're all fans. We're all readers,
and
too.
that's where I was going, because I want to see John Langan as much as you guys do.
Yeah.
You know, Simon Stranzis.
Yep.
Yeah.
We luckily caught John in an elevator. That's when he arrived.
You know.
Yeah, no, it's the funny thing is it works. I don't. It works really, really well.
And for those of you out there watching us, you see the camaraderie between us Yahoos every week. Or imagine this on a level where there's a couple of thousand people, and there truly is this deep, wondrous sense of community. This isn't like going to a regular convention. This is more like a family reunion. You
have a few black sheep here and there, and
we have them, and we're not going to waste oxygen on those people. But that is just a small handful.
Right.
99.99999% are Mike Davis and Pete Rawlick and Laird Barron and Langan and Stranzis and Damian Walters and Ann Schrader. These are all friendly, warm, generous people. They're all having a great time. They want to have a good time. We want you to have a good time. We want you to enjoy the experience and the materials that are available.
I just had a visual, like, what if you did go to a convention like that, and 99% of the people were Mike Davis?
Oh, Jesus.
I mean, I'm trying to
they would call in SWAT teams, and the black helicopters would show up.
And I will, after the con on Monday, I was in the airport, and I got to sit down with some of our foreign guests, and one of them made the comment that he saw more people in attendance at panels at this con than he would normally see at a World Fantasy Con.
Oh, the panels were very well attended. The panels I was on, I thought were great. The few things I got to see, I was fortunately, let me change that. I was very fortunately very busy.
Yes.
Joe, weren't you supposed to be recording that new weird panel?
But there was a technical glitch, so everyone thought it was recording, and it did not.
Right, but that was your fault, right?
Me, I don't know anything about technical
I
stuff.
don't know nothing about birthing no babies.
Don't be giving me no third degree. No, that had nothing to do with me. I just babbled on basically about writers who I loved, some of which were in the room, like Damian Walters and Jeff Thomas and whatnot.
Matt, I got to thank you for this book. I read it on the plane ride home, and it's really, really good. I was pleasantly surprised to find that there were people I knew had stories in this book.
Mike, do you have the first one?
No, I don't. I hadn't even heard of this until Matt gave it to me. And I looked up the first one on Amazon. It looks extremely expensive.
I think I have an extra copy.
Oh, well,
I'll see if I can dig it out for and send it to you.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah. No problem.
And I suspect that it wasn't this one wasn't cheap either. So I just wanted to say thanks. But I've only read about a third of the stories. But Richard Gavin, S.P. Muskowski, lots of other people. I really, really enjoyed S.P. Muskowski's.
What book is that again?
October Dreams 2.
October Dreams 2, edited by Richard Chismar and Robert Morrish.
Yeah.
I assume it's more horror than Lovecraftian.
Yeah.
Well, it's not Lovecraftian at all. Matt just knows I love Halloween and autumn and brought it. But
I don't think Richard Gavin is capable of not writing anything that's not wonderful.
Yeah.
And
in fact, he's been here twice, I noticed.
S.P. Muskowski she's absolutely brilliant. I can't conceive of doing a project without asking her to be part of it. And so far, I've been really lucky. She goes along with my dumb ideas. She's a very kind and generous lady.
It's a huge book. So thanks, Matt.
Sure.
Okay.
You're working on a Autumnal Cthulhu?
Autumn Cthulhu, yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, I hear that might be an interesting, good book.
That's what I hear.
Other than that Pulver got in there somehow.
Yeah,
Did
and
he
Raw
give you money or
so
something?
predictable.
Yeah.
Yeah, isn't that how it works? That's what I heard. The writers pay you to publish them.
Yeah.
That's not how it works.
Apparently not.
Apparently, there are some presses in there that actually is the way it works.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hello, Nick Passion.
Oh,
Yes.
whoa, you invoke the devil? What
Well,
the hell?
all right. Now,
Yeah,
I was
weird.
sitting there. Okay, I was sitting there with Dominique and Kat and Damian Walters, and there was a very young girl. I don't know exactly what handicap she had. Um, Perhaps some very high level of autism or something. And she was talking about when she was 15, and she had put up a story on her blog, and how Nick Passion, it's like I can make you famous, baby, and all this. I mean, a 15-year-old girl. And this poor thing had been so scarred by this monster, it was pathetic. I wanted to go wherever he was and take him out back of the barn with my trusty Adirondack 34 and have a come to the devil. And B, I was, well, at a couple points almost in tears. I just wanted to get up and hug the poor girl. Now I realize that this guy Nick is mentally ill, and I feel bad about that. But still, it's just so fucking predatory, drives me out of my mind. But I give this young woman all the credit in the world after having, had this dream and then being slapped so badly the first time that she's still endeavoring. I was very proud of her get up and go. And that's the kind of thing, another aspect of the convention. It's like, we sat there as some of us as creators and listened and talked and tried to impart wisdom and encouragement. It's important that we play this, whatever size soapbox we've been given. It's important that we play this forward.
So, on that note, Joe, I'm going to ask if we do a 2017, which I think we will. I want like a 2-hour coffee clatch open mic. Not for professionals, but for people who haven't been heard yet.
One of the things that I will be getting around to proposing when it comes time is, yes, to assemble 10 or 15 creators, put them up on stage, and allow the audience. We're not here to read. We're not here to anything. We're just here to answer your questions. We are here to offer our encouragement and whatnot. And I think we should do something like that.
I want to hear people who don't have a space yet.
Right. And well, with my books, it's like, yes, I have a Rolodex, and you've seen a couple things I've edited, and you know who I like, but I am trying to occasionally, and I know Mike Davis has been doing this with eZine forever, and he's doing it with Autumn Cthulhu as well. And I know Pete promotes this, is to, because Wagner did this, Adatlo does this all the time. There are new names you don't recognize, who are getting featured. And again, this is important. We need to be looking for the new talent. We need to play this forward. Lovecraft included people in his circle, young people in his circle, different people in his circle, and he brought them along, so to speak.
Yeah,
And
there'll be a few new names in Autumn Cthulhu.
And I think if you look at Laird Barron is a perfect example of somebody who holds that tradition and plays it forward. I can think of no one who does more for the community, who promotes more people, who is just as generous as he is. He is just a marvel, and to be applauded for his efforts in expanding our community and the horizons of weird fiction in general. It's quintessential. It's like, no, we're not going to push somebody if their work isn't good, but for new people that are good, that show promise, when you have somebody like Damian Walters, who a couple of years ago was not around, basically, and she's had this story and this story and this story and this story and this story, and been in more and more stuff, and here's her debut collection, and they're all marvelous.
Yeah.
She's super talented, super warm, super friendly. She plays it forward. This is what we need to be about. We need to be about. I mean, you see us all here, Matt and Pete and Rick and Mike and me. Oh, this is really cool. Oh, I just got this. If like social media is our high school halls, yeah, I just got this really cool record. You should hear it. That's important. Every one of us to a T is constantly support small press authors, support small presses. I would also say we need to support all the other writers who are working in the field, even if they're at a bigger publisher, because if you take Jeff Vandermeer or Paul Tremblay, who are having great successes currently and well-deserved successes, we need to celebrate them and their work and their successes and promote them all the more, because that brings more readership into our community. That just opens the gates. Also, when you have the success of Paul Tremblay with A Head Full of Ghosts and Jeff Vandermeer with the Southern Reach trilogy, those are beacons that are being lit to other writers that it's okay to come over here. This is okay to do this stuff, and we all have our niche. I mean, Pete with Reanimators, of course, everybody will be heartbroken in a couple of years because Pete's going to grab on to something else, and oh, that was my Reanimator phase, So.
But he'll be able to resurrect it occasionally.
Oh, I don't think he'll ever leave it. It's going to be like his calling card, but he sort of like Ramsey Campbell. He'll move on. When he tries to become the next King in Yellow, then him and I are going to have a little sit down.
So one of the thrills was I actually got to meet Ann Schrader briefly, and I whipped this out for her to sign, and she was like, I haven't seen one of these in years.
Isn't she just a sweetheart?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, all that talent, reams, and I'll say it again, poetry is not second-class literature, and Ann Schrader is our finest Lovecraftian poet, she'll argue with me that point, and occasionally wins because Tierney's a god too. But
So, Rick,
Yes.
what was your favorite thing that happened?
Breakfast was Ramsey Campbell.
All right.
mm,
Mike,
Hmm.
what was your favorite thing?
Pete Rawlik being drunk.
Oh, God. Yeah, I'm never going to live that
First
down.
I've
Right?
heard
Well,
of that.
I have a fear that I might hear something from Pete that's going to embarrass me.
Oh, no, no, no. No, I'm not going to bring... I won't ever bring that up
Okay.
No, I
until I
enjoyed.
need money. Rick.
You know, my favorite thing is
Matt, what was your favorite event? What did
event.
what did you really enjoy?
I don't know about event. I really,
No, Matt,
I
Matt,
enjoyed. Huh?
Matt.
Oh,
Matt,
Matt, sorry.
Okay. As 2 years ago, I got to see a performance of Night Gaunts. I got to see the Providence premiere of Monstrous Invisible,
Nice.
starring Starry Moon Wisdom and Lehman Kessler in the parts of Sonia and Howard. It's wonderful.
Joe, single event that you enjoyed the most.
Okay, because so much of my weekend was working, it's actually two things. The single event was every single encounter I had with my dear, close, personal friends who I haven't seen and touched in 2 years. That was non-ending, over and over and over. My biggest regret is I did not have more time to spend with all of them. On the professional level, I signed a contract for the Life and Times and Madness of Dr. Caligari, which will be all an anthology of all new tales and tribute to Caligari that'll be coming next fall from Fredogan and Bramer.
Yeah, when you brought that up to Ramsey at lunch, he was
I
absolutely.
brought that up to Ramsey at
excited about
lunch, and we were discussing Caligari, and he said yes. So I'm thrilled, along with another awful lot of other very talented. And that was the thing, is there was a lot of talented writers there, and this Caligari book is a very old pet project of mine that I've been waiting to do.
Excellent.
And
So
Fedogan and Bramer have every intention of doing it right. So
I got to sign us off here in a minute. Danielle's almost home. A couple of announcements. Let's give away prizes. Next week is Gary Myers. So
Okay.
I'm counting on
Great
you
guy.
guys. I mean, I know his work, but you guys know his work better than I do. So I'm counting on you guys to
Yeah.
give
I've
him.
been a fan of his for 40 years.
Yeah.
I've been a fan of a long time.
Well,
Yeah.
then I will
Friendly.
introduce him, and I will be mostly silent. So.
Smart, friendly, he knows his stuff, he's affable, he's a great guy, he's a great conversationalist, he's a great writer. That's just a home run to me.
The week after, Scott Thomas. You mentioned Mark Mashad. That's September the 20th.
Cool.
He actually emailed me and asked if he could be on the show, and I was like, yeah, sure.
That's great.
Trent Zelazny on October 4th. And,
wonderful.
Yeah, Wayne June on October the 11th. We're also, Alex and I are working on, I got a lot of feedback at the convention about people liking this show, and at the same time saying that they would like to have an audio version of this. So we're working on that for iTunes. So basically what will happen is have this show live on Sunday nights. Obviously, you can watch it on YouTube. Nothing's going to change, but on Monday or Tuesday, we'll put up the audio version of the show on iTunes, and people can listen to it on the go if they want to. So that might take us a couple of weeks to get that done, but we are working on it. So I heard you people that wanted that, and we'll try to do that. So prizes, we're giving away that Brian Hodge book of the Hellboy Brian Hodge book. Matt's giving that away, and I'm giving away that Cthulhu action figure. So you got the Friendly Horror and you've got the Antarctic Express. Okay, so we're giving away 4 things, and as usual, the method is send an email to lovecraftezineprizes@gmail.com. It's Lovecraft EZINE just all one word, lovecraftezineprizes@gmail.com, and in the subject, put the prize you're going for. You can go for more than one, excuse me, but you can't win more than one, if you know what I mean. So I'll probably tomorrow morning, I got a busy night, but tomorrow morning I will choose the 4 winners randomly, and Matt will send them off this week, and I'll send them off tomorrow. So, yeah, anything else? I think that covered it. Did I forget anything?
No, we could talk
I mean,
about the con.
we could kick around the convention for another hour or 2 easy, but, you know.
Yeah.
Gotta go eat.
Well, I think it's a good idea. We could, next week, talk to Gary Myers for an hour or so, and then talk about the convention some more after that.
Yeah. People who are watching, if you have questions, if there's things we didn't address about the convention tonight, you know, during the course of the week, put your questions in the message board, and we'll try to get around to it.
Yeah, that's a good idea. All right.
And of course, the other thing from the convention, I'll shut up with this, was Mike and I were there, and it was another one of those occasions where, oh, Mike Davis, oh, Joe Pulver, I watch you guys every week. You guys are so cool. It just, that's nice, you know.
Yeah.
So that's just an extension of, Joe Pulver, oh, you're my favorite character on the show. Yeah.
Well, someone walked up to me and told me I was their favorite character.
Cool.
That's
Well, that's
great.
because you're the smartest one here, Rick.
No,
Alright.
I think I can think of at least 3 people who supersede me.
Well, it was.
Well, it's the 3 people on that side of you, not the guy over here, I can tell you that.
It was really good to see you guys last week, and so thanks for being on the show.
I miss you guys.
Yeah, same here. And thanks everybody for watching. I apologize for the audio troubles we had before, but got them ironed out. So we'll see you all next week. Thanks.
Bye.